Ladies and gentlemen, today I stand before you to talk about two of the most powerful forces in human life, forgiveness and change. These two elements are deeply connected, shaping our relationships, our happiness, and our ability to move forward. We have all been hurt before by friends, family, or even strangers. The pain of betrayal, disappointment, or injustice can weigh us down. It is natural to hold on to resentment. But what if I told you that the true power lies in letting go? Forgiveness is not about forgetting or excusing bad behavior. It is about freeing yourself from the burden of anger. When we forgive, we break the chains of bitterness and allow ourselves to heal. Forgiveness is a gift we give to ourselves, not just to those who have wronged us. Many people believe that forgiveness is a sign of weakness, that by forgiving someone, we are allowing them to walk over us or dismissing the pain they have caused. However, this could not be further from the truth. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful and courageous choices a person can make. It is a deliberate act of strength that requires emotional maturity, self awareness, and an incredible amount of inner peace. When we hold on to resentment, we give power to the person who has wronged us. We allow their actions to control our emotions, our thoughts, and even our future. But when we choose to forgive, we take back control. We decide that we will not be defined by our pain or let the past dictate our happiness. Think about the great leaders and change makers in history, people like Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, and Martin Luther King Jr. They endured immense suffering, injustice, and betrayal, yet they chose to forgive. Not because it was easy, but because they understood that holding on to anger only fuels more pain, more conflict, and more suffering. Their forgiveness was not about weakness, it was about strength, wisdom, and the power to move forward. Forgiveness does not mean that we ignore the wrongdoing or pretend it never happened. It does not mean that we have to maintain a relationship with those who have hurt us. Instead, forgiveness is about releasing the emotional hold that the past has on us. It is a conscious decision to say, I will not let this define me. I will not let this break me. Furthermore, forgiveness benefits not just the one who forgives, but also society as a whole. Imagine a world where conflicts are resolved not with revenge but with understanding, where people are not trapped in cycles of hatred and retaliation, but instead strive to heal and rebuild. This is the true power of forgiveness. It allows individuals, families, and even entire nations to move forward toward peace and unity. So the next time you are faced with a difficult choice, whether to hold on to a grudge or to forgive, remember this: forgiveness is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of immense strength, wisdom, and personal growth. It is not about excusing the past, but about choosing your future. And in that choice, you find freedom. Many of us have experienced betrayal, hurt, or disappointment at some point in our lives. The natural response to pain is often anger, resentment, or a desire for justice. But what happens when we hold on to that anger for too long? It begins to weigh us down, taking up space in our minds and hearts, limiting our ability to find true happiness and peace. Holding on to resentment is like carrying a heavy burden wherever you go. Imagine walking through life with a backpack full of rocks, each rock representing a past hurt, a betrayal, or a grudge. The longer you carry it, the heavier it becomes. It drains your energy, makes it harder to move forward, and eventually it becomes a part of you. But here's the truth: the weight you carry is not hurting the person who wronged you, it is only hurting you. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is the act of setting that burden down. It is choosing to free yourself from the emotional chains that keep you trapped in the past. When you forgive, you are not saying that what happened was okay or that you condone the behavior. Instead, you are making the conscious decision to no longer let it control you. You are reclaiming your peace, your happiness, and your emotional well being. Scientific research has even shown that forgiveness has profound physical and mental health benefits. Studies have found that people who practice forgiveness experience lower stress levels, reduced blood pressure, improved heart health, and a stronger immune system. Mentally, forgiveness reduces anxiety, depression, and even symptoms of PTSD. When we forgive, we are not just freeing our minds, we are healing our bodies as well. Some people hesitate to forgive because they believe it means letting the other person win or allowing them to escape accountability. But in reality, forgiveness is not about the other person at all, it is about you. You may never receive an apology from the person who hurt you. They may never change or acknowledge their wrongdoing. But your healing should never be dependent on someone else's actions. Forgiveness is something you do for yourself to find peace regardless of what the other person does or doesn't do. One of the most powerful examples of forgiveness comes from those who have endured the worst kinds of suffering. Victims of injustice, war, and personal betrayal have found the strength to forgive, not because they were weak, but because they refused to let bitterness take over their lives. They chose freedom over hatred, peace over pain, and in doing so, they unlocked the ability to move forward with clarity and strength. Forgiveness is not a single moment or an easy decision, it is a process. Some wounds take time to heal, and that's okay. But every step toward forgiveness is a step toward freeing yourself from the past and opening the door to a brighter future. One of the biggest misconceptions about forgiveness is the idea that it requires forgetting what happened. Many people believe that if they forgive someone, they must act as if the offense never took place. This misunderstanding often leads to hesitation. People fear that forgiving will make them vulnerable to being hurt again, or that it will erase the lessons learned from the experience. But the truth is, forgiving and forgetting are not the same thing. Forgiveness is a conscious choice to release resentment and anger, but it does not erase the past. The pain, the betrayal, and the lessons learned remain a part of our journey. In fact, remembering what happened is often necessary for growth, wisdom, and protection. The goal of forgiveness is not to pretend that nothing happened, but to change how we carry those memories. Think of emotional wounds like physical scars. When we get injured, the wound heals over time, but a scar remains. That scar is a reminder of what happened, but it no longer causes pain the way the open wound once did. Similarly, when we forgive, we allow ourselves to heal, but we still remember what happened so we can learn, grow, and set healthy boundaries. Setting boundaries is an important part of forgiving without forgetting. Just because you forgive someone does not mean you have to welcome them back into your life in the same way. If someone has hurt you deeply, forgiveness allows you to let go of resentment, but wisdom tells you to be cautious about trusting them again. Forgiveness does not mean allowing toxic or harmful people to continue hurting you. Instead, it means finding peace in your heart while also protecting yourself. History is full of examples of people who forgave but did not forget. Survivors of great injustices such as civil rights leaders, Holocaust survivors, and victims of war have often chosen to forgive those who harmed them, not because they forgot what happened, but because they refused to let hatred control their lives. They carried their painful memories not as burdens, but as reminders of strength, resilience, and the need to create a better future. In personal relationships, forgiving without forgetting allows us to rebuild trust when it is deserved and to walk away when it is not. If a friend betrays you, you can forgive them so that you don't carry bitterness, but you may also choose to be more careful in your future interactions. If a loved one lies to you, you can forgive them while also recognizing that trust must be rebuilt over time. Forgiveness is about healing, but forgetting is a choice that depends on the circumstances. While some wounds may fade in our memories, others remain as important lessons. The key is to remember in a way that helps us grow, not in a way that keeps us trapped in the pain of the past. Or change is one of the most challenging yet essential aspects of life. Many of us resist change because it is uncomfortable, uncertain, and often forces us to confront parts of ourselves that we would rather ignore. However, without change, there is no progress, whether in our personal lives, our relationships, or even in society as a whole. Forgiveness and change are deeply connected because true forgiveness often requires transformation. When we forgive, we are not just letting go of the past, we are choosing a different way forward. We are making a conscious decision to no longer let past hurts define our future. But if we forgive without embracing change, we risk repeating the same mistakes, allowing the same toxic patterns, and failing to grow beyond our experiences. Change is necessary for personal development. Every hardship, every mistake, and every betrayal teaches us something valuable if we are willing to learn. When we experience pain or conflict, we have two choices: remain stuck in bitterness and resentment, or use the experience to grow into a stronger, wiser version of ourselves. The most successful and fulfilled people are not those who have never been hurt, but those who have learned from their pain and allowed it to shape them for the better. Consider a relationship that has been damaged by betrayal or dishonesty. Forgiveness alone may relieve the emotional burden, but without real change, the relationship cannot truly heal. If the person who caused the hurt does not recognize their mistake and make an effort to change their behavior, the cycle will continue. Similarly, if we forgive but do not reflect on how we can better protect ourselves or set healthier boundaries, we might find ourselves in the same painful situation again. Change is also necessary for healing. Sometimes healing requires more than just letting go of resentment. It demands that we change how we see ourselves and the world around us. For example, someone who has been deeply hurt in the past may need to change their mindset from one of fear and mistrust to one of openness and resilience. Someone struggling with self-forgiveness may need to change the way they speak to themselves, replacing self-criticism with self-compassion. The natural world offers a powerful lesson about the necessity of change. Think of a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. The process is painful, requiring the caterpillar to completely break down before it can emerge as something new and beautiful. In the same way, growth often requires us to let go of who we once were, to endure discomfort, and to step into the unknown. But the result is worth it. Change is not always easy, and it does not happen overnight. It requires effort, patience, and sometimes even failure before progress is made. But those who embrace change, rather than fear it, will always find themselves in a better, stronger place than where they started. Forgiveness and change are deeply interconnected. Many people believe that forgiving someone is enough to move forward, but without change, forgiveness can become an empty gesture. True healing and growth come when forgiveness leads to transformation, not only in our relationships but also in ourselves. Forgiving someone does not mean returning to the way things were before. If a situation or relationship was painful or unhealthy, simply forgiving without making necessary changes can lead to the same cycle of hurt repeating itself. Forgiveness without change is like cleaning a wound without treating the infection. It may seem better on the surface, but the damage continues beneath. Forgiveness requires change in the person who caused harm. If someone has hurt us deeply, their apology and our forgiveness are just the first steps. For the relationship to truly heal, the person who caused the pain must be willing to reflect on their actions and make meaningful changes. Words alone are not enough, actions must follow. For example, if a friend betrays your trust by lying to you, simply saying, "I forgive you," does not fix the problem. If that friend does not change their behavior, the same betrayal could happen again. Real forgiveness requires accountability. The person who has done wrong must recognize the harm they caused, show genuine remorse, and demonstrate through their actions that they are committed to doing better. Forgiveness also requires change in the one who forgives, just as the person who caused harm must change, so too must the person who forgives. Forgiving someone is not just about saying the words, it is about making an internal shift. If we say we forgive someone but continue to hold on to resentment, bitterness, or the desire for revenge, then we have not truly let go. Forgiveness requires a change in our mindset, our emotions, and sometimes even our boundaries. Sometimes this means learning to see the situation differently. Instead of focusing on how we were wronged, we can shift our perspective to what we learned from the experience. Did it make us stronger? Did it teach us how to set better boundaries? Did it help us grow in wisdom? When we change the way we think about our pain, we take control of our healing process. Change leads to stronger relationships and a better future. When forgiveness is combined with real change, relationships can become stronger than before. Couples who overcome betrayal through true effort and transformation often find that their bond is deeper and more honest. Friendships that survive misunderstandings and mistakes, with both people willing to grow and improve, become more resilient. Even family relationships, which can be deeply complex, have the potential for healing when both sides commit to forgiveness and change. Beyond personal relationships, the combination of forgiveness and change can transform societies. History has shown us that some of the greatest movements toward peace and justice were built on these principles. Leaders like Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King Jr. did not just speak about forgiveness, they fought for real change in the systems that caused oppression. They understood that forgiveness without action would not lead to true progress. Forgiveness without change can be dangerous. There are times when forgiveness alone is not enough, especially in cases of abuse, manipulation, or injustice. If we continue to forgive people who repeatedly harm us without seeing any change, we risk enabling toxic behavior. Forgiveness should never mean accepting mistreatment or allowing someone to hurt us over and over again. This is why it is important to set boundaries. Forgiving someone does not mean you must keep them in your life. If someone refuses to change, walking away might be the best choice. Forgiveness is for your own peace of mind, but change is what determines whether a relationship can be rebuilt. In the end, forgiveness and change must work together. Forgiveness allows us to let go of resentment, but change ensures that we do not repeat the same mistakes. When both are present, they create a foundation for healing, growth, and a brighter future. Throughout history, the most inspiring and transformative leaders have been those who understood the power of forgiveness. These individuals did not allow anger or resentment to dictate their actions. Instead, they chose to forgive even in the face of deep betrayal, suffering, and injustice. Their ability to forgive was not a sign of weakness, but a testament to their strength, wisdom, and vision for a better future. Forgiveness in leadership is crucial because leaders often face opposition, criticism, and even personal attacks. They are tested in ways that require emotional resilience and a deep sense of purpose. Those who hold grudges or seek revenge often find themselves consumed by negativity, unable to move forward with a clear mind. In contrast, leaders who choose forgiveness create unity, inspire change, and leave a lasting impact on the world. Nelson Mandela forgiveness that united a nation. One of the most remarkable examples of leadership through forgiveness is Nelson Mandela. After spending 27 years in prison for opposing South Africa's apartheid system, Mandela had every reason to seek revenge. He had been wrongfully imprisoned, separated from his family, and subjected to harsh treatment. Yet, when he was finally released and became the first black president of South Africa, he chose reconciliation over retaliation. Instead of using his newfound power to punish those who had oppressed him, Mandela encouraged forgiveness and unity. He understood that holding on to hatred would only continue the cycle of division. His leadership helped heal a nation that had been deeply fractured by racial injustice. His decision to forgive did not mean he ignored the past, it meant he was committed to building a future where people could coexist in peace. Martin Luther King Jr., the power of love and forgiveness, another extraordinary leader who exemplified forgiveness, was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In his fight for civil rights, King faced extreme racism, death threats, imprisonment, and violence. Yet he never advocated for revenge. Instead, he preached nonviolence, love, and forgiveness as the most powerful tools for change. King understood that hatred could never defeat hatred. He famously said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." Even when his own home was bombed and he was physically attacked, he continued to encourage his followers to forgive and rise above anger. His leadership led to significant changes in American society, proving that forgiveness, when combined with action, can bring about true justice. Mahatma Gandhi, forgiveness as a revolutionary act. Mahatma Gandhi, the leader of India's non-violent independence movement, also embodied the power of forgiveness. He fought against British colonial rule, enduring imprisonment and brutal oppression. Yet Gandhi never responded with hatred. Instead, he chose peace, understanding, and forgiveness even toward his enemies. Gandhi believed that forgiveness was an act of courage. He once said, "The weak can never forgive." Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. His leadership was rooted in the idea that change comes not from revenge, but from inner transformation and moral strength. Through his principles of forgiveness and nonviolence, he helped India achieve independence and inspired movements for peace across the world. Abraham Lincoln, forgiveness in politics. Even in politics, forgiveness can be a defining trait of great leadership. Abraham Lincoln, one of the most revered presidents in U.S. history, led the nation through the Civil War, a time of deep division and conflict. Despite the hatred and violence of war, Lincoln never lost his commitment to unity and forgiveness. At the end of the war, when the Confederacy was defeated, many people expected Lincoln to seek harsh punishment against the South. Instead, he advocated for reconciliation, saying, "With malice toward none, with charity for all." His leadership set the foundation for healing a broken nation, showing that true strength lies in forgiveness, not vengeance. Forgiveness as a leadership quality. What makes these leaders truly great is that their forgiveness was not passive. They did not simply ignore the wrongs done to them or accept injustice. Instead, they used forgiveness as a tool to create change, to build bridges instead of walls, and to inspire people to rise above anger and hatred. Forgiveness in leadership does not mean allowing injustice to continue. It means choosing wisdom over revenge, love over hate, and the future over the past. The greatest leaders understand that forgiveness is not just an emotional act, but a strategic one. It is the key to healing, unity, and long-lasting transformation. At the heart of forgiveness and change lies one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves: inner peace. Many people believe that forgiveness is something we do for others, but in reality, it is something we do for ourselves. When we hold on to anger, resentment, or pain from past experiences, it creates an emotional weight that can be overwhelming. Choosing to forgive and embrace change is the key to freeing ourselves from that burden and finding true inner peace. The weight of holding on has been carrying a heavy bag filled with every hurt, betrayal, and disappointment you've ever experienced. The longer you carry it, the heavier it becomes, slowing you down and making every step forward more difficult. This is what happens when we refuse to forgive. We are the ones carrying the weight, while the person who hurt us may not even be aware of the burden we bear. Anger and resentment don't punish the person who wronged us, they punish us. Studies have shown that people who hold on to grudges experience higher levels of stress, anxiety, and even physical health problems like high blood pressure and weakened immune systems. Their minds remain stuck in the past, replaying painful moments, which prevents them from fully enjoying the present. When we choose forgiveness, we are not excusing the wrongdoing, we are simply choosing to set ourselves free from the pain it continues to cause. The healing power of letting go forgiveness is a process, and it doesn't happen overnight. Some wounds take longer to heal than others, and that's okay. But every small step toward forgiveness is a step toward personal freedom. It allows us to reclaim our energy, focus, and happiness. When we forgive, we stop allowing our past to control our emotions and decisions. We take back our power. Instead of dwelling on what was done to us, we start looking forward to what we can create for ourselves. Forgiveness allows us to shift from being victims of our circumstances to being architects of our future. This is where change becomes essential. Choosing forgiveness is only the first step. True healing happens when we also commit to changing our perspective, our mindset, and sometimes even our circumstances. It may mean walking away from toxic relationships, redefining our boundaries, or adopting a new way of thinking that no longer allows past pain to dictate our happiness. Forgiveness and self-forgiveness. One of the hardest yet most important acts of forgiveness is self-forgiveness. Many people struggle to forgive themselves for past mistakes, bad decisions, or moments of weakness. They replay these regrets over and over, punishing themselves long after the event has passed. But just as we offer forgiveness to others, we must also extend it to ourselves. Self-forgiveness does not mean ignoring our mistakes or pretending they didn't happen. It means learning from them, making amends if necessary, and then choosing to move forward without guilt and shame weighing us down. We cannot change the past, but we can change how we carry it. Instead of letting our mistakes define us, we can use them as lessons to grow into better, wiser, and more compassionate versions of ourselves. The inner peace that comes from forgiveness, when we truly forgive, whether it's forgiving someone else, forgiving ourselves, or both, we experience a sense of inner peace that cannot be found anywhere else. We no longer feel trapped by resentment, anger, or regret. We are free to live fully in the present, to experience joy without the shadow of past pain looming over us. People who practice forgiveness report feeling lighter, more optimistic, and more at peace with themselves and the world around them. They no longer carry the emotional baggage that once held them back. Instead, they approach life with a sense of freedom, knowing that they have chosen peace over pain, growth over stagnation, and love over bitterness. Choosing forgiveness and change is not just about healing relationships with others, it is about healing ourselves. It is about breaking free from the chains of the past and stepping into a future filled with hope, happiness, and inner peace. Forgiveness and change are not always easy, but they are always worth it. They require strength, courage, and a willingness to grow beyond our pain. When we choose to forgive, we release ourselves from the burdens of anger and resentment. When we embrace change, we allow ourselves to evolve into stronger, wiser, and more compassionate individuals. True freedom comes not from holding on to the past, but from learning from it, growing from it, and then letting it go. Forgiveness is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of wisdom and inner strength. Change is not something to fear. It is the gateway to a better life. As we walk through life, we will all face moments where we are hurt, betrayed, or challenged. But in those moments, we have a choice to remain stuck in bitterness or to rise above it. When we choose the path of forgiveness and change, we not only heal ourselves, but we also create a more peaceful and compassionate world. Let us choose to forgive, Let us choose to grow. Let us choose to move forward with hearts that are free and minds that are open to the endless possibilities of a new beginning.